Hi, it's Polly with Get Busy Thriving. I have an idea for you. So this showed up for me this week. So I was like, well, if it's happening for me, I bet you there's other people that could use this idea. So state change is something that I teach a lot, right? And I get that idea. So emotional self-mastery is really the name of the game. I think that's like the key to so much happiness in life. It's knowing what our emotions are, where they come from, how to sit with them, how to dance with them, all of that, right? So on top of that, state management is helping yourself not only be, being able to pick yourself up when you find yourself in a negative or a disempowered or a suffering state, but how to be deliberate with creating your state, right? So the processes I teach, like the morning process, are to get you in an elevated peak state in your morning and your day so that it carries you into the day. Who you show up as is your best self. And I had an opportunity this week to find myself in a less than positive state. I'll say I was in maybe a slight dip between like overwhelm and frustration, right? Just lots of moving pieces in the logistics of a move that I'm working on, right? So I was like, I found myself in this state, and I was like, okay, so how do I change my state? What am I focusing on? What am I making me? And and I went through all these typical things that. So in state management, it's three things typically. So what am I focusing on? Where's my attention? What am I looking at? Am I thinking about the past? Am I thinking about the future? Am I thinking about the present, this person in front of me, this bill that I'm looking at, this information, something like that? Am I paying attention to myself, my body? Am I beating myself up? That's the second thing is, what am I saying? What meaning am I adding to this thing that I'm focusing on? So if I'm focusing on the future, I could look at it as worry because I put fear on it and I say, gosh, I wonder about that thing and I'm worried and so I lace it with fear, add a lot of meaning to what could happen. Or I look at it as positive, like, oh, it's the beginning, like great things are happening, right? Like what meaning do I give it? How do I language the story around it? And that could be myself too. So it could be, how am I in my inner conversation talking to myself about myself? So I'm creating a negative state of disempowerment when I say I'm horrible, I can't do that, I don't know what I'm going to do. A client I was coaching yesterday is like, I'm broke, I'm fat, and all this stuff. It's like, when we live in that inner stew and that inner conversation, we have this state because of it. So for myself, it was a state of 1, 2, 3, too many. It was like I got too many things to do and all these things. And so I like ticked off the things I had to do and then told myself a story that I was in overwhelm, too much to do. So I found myself going, okay, what do I do? How do I rework the story? And all these things. And it felt like at the time, the more I tried to muster up moving my state, I just sort of like sunk in like quicksand. I sunk in and it just got thicker and harder. It was like the state of suffering. Maybe it didn't, go from a 5 to a 10 or something like that, but it wasn't going anywhere. And I was like, so I tried this and I tried that, take my mind off of it, lots of state management tools, techniques, all that sort of thing. And then I realized, God, and I went to sleep and I was like, God, this isn't helping me. And then I woke up in the morning and it woke up with me, right? Like how you go to bed is oftentimes how you wake up. And so I woke up with all those things running in my mind, the to-dos. And then I found myself in that state again. And I said, you know what? The word that came to me was surrender. It was like, when you're facing something and you're fighting against it, it's like it almost like it takes on more, or you give it energy, you give that state that you're focusing on that you don't want more attention, and you just get more of it. So I was like, I'm going to surrender. And I don't mean surrender like give up, because sometimes we think, oh, you just gave up, like whatever, I took the sidelines or something. No, I just said, I'm going to surrender to what's here. I'm going to surrender to these emotions that something is stirring up inside of me. Something's emotionally upset. Some state of overwhelm needs to be felt. And I just was like, okay, I'm going to sit with it. But I didn't keep fighting it. I didn't keep focusing on it. Didn't keep working on it. Whatever. I just said, okay, I'm just going to be in it. And I tell you, within a couple minutes, it was like it dissolved. Like all of a sudden I was paying attention to how I was, the state I found myself, and I was like, wow, I'm not struggling, because I stopped the struggle. I stopped the struggle. I just sort of surrendered into it. And instead of, sinking in quicksand, I let go and I stepped out. And it was pretty miraculous. So I just thought I would share that. So if you find yourself like I was, working tools and processes that in personal development, it's like, okay, you want to feel good as much of the time as you can. And when you don't, you've got tools and ways to do that. Meditation, breath work, working on your inner conversation, all sorts of things. But if you find yourself like I did, just the resistance, I was giving my resistance more resistance. And when I surrendered, and it was just sort of like the subtle act of saying to myself, I surrender. I'm just going to feel this for right now, or let it be, you might say. And it dissipated. It was like it just sort of like the vision just sort of went gray, or it disappeared. So, and then the state I was left in was back to my state of well-being. So I hope that helps you, and if so, wish you the best practicing that. But next time you're feeling that upset and you can't get it moving, surrender to it instead. Enjoy.